Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and in this video what I want to do is go over a boilerplate I made for making an app with Express as your backend framework, Mongo as your database, and Express React Views as your templating engine. So in this video we're going to spin up the template, I'm going to kind of walk you through the template, and maybe we even go through the deployment process. So let's do it. Okay, yeah. So let's do it. So git, first I want to go inside the main folder. So cd into scratch. Okay, I'm going to clear my terminal. And all you have to do is run the command mpx create-erv, which stands for Express React Views, Mongo, for Mongo database. So create-ervmongo-app. So this command is going to create the application. But we want to give the application a name, so we'll call it project 2. Okay. So what this will do is it'll clone the repo, and see there it did the thing. So see, now I have project 2 here. Okay, now I'm going to cd into that folder, project 2. Now what I want to do is get rid of the existing git repo that's in there. So that command would just be sudo. That's to give you super user privileges. rm to remove, assuming this is a bash terminal. Sudo rm-r is for recursive, because I'm not only just deleting a folder, I'm deleting all the files in that folder, so it has to recursively repeat itself. Sudo rm recursive, and then the name of the folder. So again, the git repository is going to be inside of a .git folder, because when this clones the repo, it's going to create that git repository in there. So that's why we have to do this. So I put in my password, and ta-da, that has been removed. Also, I need to make sure I install all my Node libraries, okay? Because again, when you generally download a Node-based boilerplate, we usually have the Node modules in the git ignore, which means all those Node modules have not been uploaded. Okay, so how do you get them? Well, when I originally made this template and I installed all these dependencies, they all got listed in the package.json. Okay, wonderful. So that means when I type in npm install, it'll read the package.json and install all those dependencies that this boilerplate supports. Ta-da! Okay, so now we're up and running. Now, basically, I built this sort of with the security measures you usually have in place. So things like .env. Now, .env is in the git ignore. So if I had a .env file, it wouldn't get pushed up to GitHub. So what I did to get you started is I created a file called template.env. This is just essentially the 4 variables I do have somewhere within this setup already there. All you have to do is just rename it to .env. Okay, and now you're off to the races. So you can set what port you're on. Between these two, you can set your Mongo URLs, and then here is your secret for sessions. Okay, wonderful. So if you have Mongo installed locally, you could actually just work with what's there out of the box. It'll work. That's your local host. If you want to connect to your database on Mongo Atlas, you can connect it there. The actual code for connecting to your database is actually in this database folder. So this file, database connection, or dbcon, brings in mongoose, it brings in the environmental variables, and then basically here it connects to the database. So there's the 2 environmental variables, and that's it. It just exports the connection. So this way you can actually use the connection in multiple files. The reason why I did that is because you might want to seed your database. So here's a template seed file. So you can go here, it imports the connection already, so you don't have to worry about connecting to your database. All you'd have to do is import your Mongo models, put in all your seed data, and then here you would just seed that data. Okay, so you can do that. Cool. Now in your server.js, I'm bringing in that connection, right? Well, here I'm bringing in the environmental variables. Here I bring in Express. Here I import the database connection. Everything's labeled, so you can. Here are a couple of routers I have built into the template. You don't have to use them, but they're there. You could also just use them as a model to create your own routers. Okay, then here we have other imports. So we bring in sessions, so we can have sessions. Method override in case you need method override. And Morgan. Okay, and now that I think about it, I don't have the method override middleware configured, so I'll adjust the template. Okay, here we set the view engine for Express React views. Here's the middleware. Okay, I'm going to add this to the template, but if you haven't, app.use method override method. Okay, so if you clone this template and this is not there, add that there. If you plan on using sort of forms that are going to directly post to your server, or directly make requests to your server instead of using JSON. So right now, by default, it is built for that kind of form, using forms. So if you decided not to use forms and decided you wanted to use JSON, you would just comment these out and then uncomment the express.json. Okay. Easy peasy. Okay. And again, this session thing you don't have to really do anything with. It's there. Then I have just a test route. So this just takes you to a hello world page just to see if your server is working. And then I have these two routers here, which we'll get into. And then there's our listener. So first, let's just test that the router is working. So theoretically, to get to this point where the server will be working, you need to have installed all the dependencies with npm install, and you need to have renamed the .env, the template.env to .env. With that, we have two scripts. So if we go to our package.json, we'll see that we have two scripts configured. A start script, which is more for when you deploy, and we have a dev script for that way it runs on Nodamon. Okay, so I just type in npm run dev. And look, everything looks like it went fine. Okay, so wonderful. So then what I'm going to do is go open up a browser. And in the browser, we'll go to localhost 5000. Okay, and there's our hello world page. Cool. Now, just to take a look at our views, we do have a layout component. And the layout component, okay, is kind of where you would do your header and footer, or put any script tags or link tags if you want to include like things like Bootstrap and jQuery and all that. And it does already link by default to your own custom CSS and app.js, which are located in the public folder. So there's your JavaScript file for any kind of JavaScript stuff you need to happen. So again, this JavaScript file would occur on the front end. So this would be front end code in this particular app.js. And then this is your CSS style sheets. So that's there. This is the template that's being rendered by it. And see, it's already being wrapped by the layout component. Okay, and the layout component takes a title prop for the title of the page. Cool. And then again, you're free to edit this layout. Well, you can edit anything any way you want, but just so you know that's there. Cool. So that's the basic gist. Now, one of the cool things I did add to this is I built out authentication. So it's there already. Let's just explore how that was built. Okay. So I go to, so in my models, we have an auth folder where I have the auth model. So all it is it's just a schema with a username and a password. Okay, you have to have a username and a password, so they're both required, and the username has to be unique, so you can't have double usernames in the database. Now, so here I create the model, we export the model, wonderful. So then, in my controllers, we created auth routes, so here's the auth routes, okay? And essentially there's 5 main routes you have to create for auth. There's the route that takes you to the sign up page, okay, which is /signup. So let's go check that out. So that would be localhost 5000 auth/signup. And see, that takes us to this page. Okay, and I can put in a username, and I can put in a password, and then hit sign up. Okay, and then when you hit sign up, if it's successful, it should take you to the login page. So notice we're now on the login page. Again, it would be on you to customize these pages and make them prettier and style them and whatnot. This is just boilerplate to get you started. Okay, and then on this page is so basically we have two routes so far. We had the sign up route, that was the one that brought us to the sign up page, but then when you submitted on the form, there was a post route that took the sign up information and created a new account. That's this thing here. So see, all it does is it's going to hash the password using bcrypt. That means it encrypts your password. Okay. After it encrypts the password, it then creates a new user. And after creating a new user, it then redirects you back to the login page. So notice I wrote my functions using async await. I just think it makes them a little cleaner and easier to read. But if you prefer .thens and traditional promise syntax, you can do that too. Okay, then here's the login page. So again, it redirects you to the login page. So now I'm going to use the username and password that I just used. First, I'll try one that's wrong. So username, and I'll choose cheese2. And see, it takes me to this page, failed to log in because it was a wrong password. Okay, but if I put in the right password, see, it takes me back to the main page. Cool. So now I'm logged in. And that's what this post request does. So this post request is a little bit longer because we have to do all those checks. So the way this login request does is we post the form data. Okay, because again, that's when you submit the form. We go and search for a user with the username that was submitted. So that's going to be in the rec.body.username. Okay, and see, you can see here, we did pull up the user because you have a console log. I should probably remove those. But you can see their password was hashed with bcrypt. So notice, see, the password doesn't look like cheese, like what I typed, but that's because it was hashed with bcrypt for security purposes. That's why later on, once we find the user and pull them out of the database, so we check, and then again, when you do a search for users, it's going to return you an array of users. So that's why I say, hey, if the array's length is greater than 0, because it should just find one. Every username should be unique. Come to think of it, I could have probably used find one, which is another mongoose search, or find by ID. Find one probably would have done the job, but this works. It's already working. I'm not going to touch it. If user.length is greater than 0, so that way if the array of users we got back is greater than 0, because if it's 0, that means they didn't find a user. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the password. So this is going to be a Boolean on whether the password was correct or false. So bcrypt, I'm comparing the password you submitted, which was cheese, versus what you have in the database, which is this hash string. Bcrypt is going to do its magic and be able to compare the two to see if they're mathematical equivalents. Like is this the hashed equivalent of cheese? If that is successful, check should end up getting true returned, or a value returned. So that means this if statement here will resolve because it'll have matched. And then in here, I store in the session object a property called login that's true, just so that way I know you logged in. So I have something I can point to and refer to make sure that you've logged in. I store the username, so that way if I need the username in other routes, I have it. And then I redirect you back to the main page. If that doesn't work because your password was wrong, I send you to the fail page. Okay, if the user didn't exist, I send you to the fail page. Okay, so that's essentially what's going on here. That's what it's doing. Okay, and then on last, there's a logout route. What the login route does, the logout route does, it just destroys the session. So that way, the server no longer knows that you're logged in. Okay, because right now, that rec.session object has a property called login that says true. So it knows I'm logged in, and I can test it out. I created That's what, if you go to controllers, there's another set of another router here, test. That's the test auth. So if I go in here, okay, you'll see the way I wrote the route. I added this piece of middleware, auth. Where's that coming from? This file right here. This is just custom middleware that I wrote. See, nothing complicated. All this middleware does is that it checks to see if that session login boolean is true. If it's true, it says go on in. If that's what the next function is, it just says go on, this is done. And if for some reason you're not logged in, it'll say not logged in. Okay, it just sends you a response at that point. That's all the auth middleware does in this particular example, because this boolean is doing all the work. So all I'm doing here is I imported the middleware. So you would want to import this on any routes you want to protect from people who are not logged in, and you just add it there like this. So basically what happens is when they hit this route, it runs through this middleware first. If the check fails, it gets the you're not logged in response, and if it succeeds, then it just moves on to your controller function. Okay, so this route is just to test if you're logged in or not, just to show you that it works. Okay, so now let me see what was the I forgot what the endpoint for that one is. So let's go to my server.js. That's the test router, so it's /test. So technically right now I'm logged in. So if I do the /test, I should say, if you see this, you are logged in. Good, it works. So now let's test the logout route. Auth log out. Okay, now I'm back to logout. This page is not protected, so it doesn't tell me anything. Now let's go back to test to see if I'm still logged in or logged out. I'm not logged in. So see, it is working. Now you would have to connect these pieces if you want to use them. So you would just, create a website and then would link to the sign up page, link to the login page. You can customize these templates to make it work the way you want. But the idea is that it's already there. It's already built in. You don't have to think about it, and it's easy to change. So if you wanted to add more fields to the user model, you would just go here and add it to the user model. So you can add like email and whatever kind of information you want to collect from the user. So the shell's there. It works as is, but it's easily customizable to your liking. Other middleware that's installed is Morgan, so that's why you see all these nice logs in the terminal. That's very nice. Okay, and that's pretty straightforward. Okay, now if you wanted to deploy this, all you would do is you would push this up to GitHub, and then you would connect your GitHub repository to Heroku, and you'd be off to the races. You'd have to set up all your config vars on Heroku. Just check out my Heroku videos to get a little bit more detail on all that, but otherwise, that's it. That's what you got here. Otherwise, it's just normal Express. You create a model for a new feature, then you create some controllers for it, and then you create some views for it. Okay? And you just repeat that process over and over again. So with that, I will see you guys later on.